Deep in a forgotten corner of Ghyra, there is an island known to the locals as Witch Isle. This ragged piece of rock in the middle of the ocean is densely covered in gnarly looking trees and few locals dare to go there. Of those that did, few came back. Only those that made sure to leave the shore before nightfall have been heard from again. They reported seeing strange ruins and rotting shipwrecks that have been radically overgrown by the woods, that those who tried to gather firewood mysteriously disappeared. But most of all, they talk about the screaming oak. For in the middle of the isle, a tree can be found from which pieces of an armored warrior protrude, as if the wood had been liquefied and cast over him. Near the top of the tree there is a skull, which seems to be screaming in silent agony. Judging by the state of the ruins surrounding him, this unfortunate soul must have been screaming for more than a century, as the tree slowly consumes him. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Bathelloren, and today we'll be taking a look at the legend of Hermit Isle, otherwise known as Witch Isle. At first glance, Hermit Isle might have seemed like a paradise. Exotic plants blossoming with wondrous fruits, luxurious palaces with regal nobility, and an air that smelled of roses and culinary delights. Beyond the surface, however, the isle was vile beyond belief, for it was ruled over by Ravish, a powerful hedonite of Slaanesh. The palaces were filled with torture rooms and slave pens. The kitchens would have made Hannibal Lecter jealous, and even the fruit gardens held a dark secret. Growing plants, especially exotic ones, can be quite challenging, and thus Ravish required a special fertilizer for the task. He and his warband had gone out and captured a group of sylvanid dryads, which they had brought back to the island. Here they bound them, decapitated them, and grafted crops into their wounds. As long as they regularly pruned the dryads, they would remain in this state, a state of perpetual agony, too close on the brink of death to escape, but too far removed to tip over the edge. Of course, to the hedonites, this pain only added a pleasurable spice to their food. To keep everything healthy, they had however also captured a branch witch, who seemingly had accepted her role as gardener for the hedonites. After all, either she would care for her kin, or they would be left entirely to the device of the torturous hedonites. She seemed content with keeping them alive and reducing their suffering as much as possible. After a while, this witch even started to seem like she enjoyed her task. She became the perfect servant and served Ravish on his every whim. Eventually, she even started flirting with the warlord, much to the dismay of his jealous demon concubine. Over the year, she got closer and closer to the king of Hermit Isle, but beneath this act, she was busy planting the seeds for a very cunning plan. Literally, in fact, as she had been secretly putting soul pots into the fruits and berries eaten by the Slaaneshi court, causing these sylvanite pokeballs to be spread all throughout the palace. She had used seawater to rust away the bonds that held her dryad sisters bound, and she had booby-trapped what was soon to be Ravish's final meal. As he tried to take a bite, a monstrous insect jumped out and mangled his face. The witch turned out to be much less contained as she initially seemed and ran off, while the dryads came alive once more. While the hidden seeds suddenly sprouted a small army of terrible tree ants. The island came alive that night, under the hateful spirit song and cackling laughter of the hag. The humans were torn apart, bit by bit, turned into new fertilizer for the plant life they sought to capture and abuse. And Ravish, well, even now, centuries later, his skull can still be found screaming in silent agony at the center of the island. That was the story of Witch Isle. If you want to read about it, I recommend picking up the excellent short story Garden of Mortal Delights by Robert Rath. Otherwise, have a nice evening, and don't forget your 90 prayers to Nagash.